this program series and who has been instrumental in helping us get this program off the ground and making it a successful initiative. Before we get into the program, I'd like to encourage you to follow us on social media and give us a shout out today. You can do that by either using @LV Launchbox or #Launchbox. Also, I want to remind everyone that the program today is being recorded and that we will be taking questions. So feel free to enter questions in the Q&A box and we'll address those at the end. And lastly, we're doing something a little bit different in this program today. We've received some feedback that some of you are missing the Launchbox Ladies networking that happens when we're in person. So we invite you to stay on at the end of the program. And at that point, anyone that remains on will enable your mics and videos and give everyone the opportunity to do a little networking with their colleagues. So today we're going to hear from female leaders in the education space, the higher education space. And we are very fortunate in the Lehigh Valley that 5 out of the 8 institutions across Allentown and Bethlehem are led by women. And so we, in fact, are extremely honored to have 3 of them with us today. And they're going to share with you the challenges that they're facing and how they're navigating through those challenges at their institutions. So now let me introduce to you our program moderator for today. Dr. Nicola Gutgold is our program moderator, and she's a professor of communication arts and sciences at Penn State Lehigh Valley. Give me one moment here. I'm trying to move some things on my screen. Okay. Dr. Gutgold is an award-winning teacher and scholar and has been named a Penn State Faculty Teaching Fellow and a Lehigh Valley Woman of Influence. She's done a tremendous amount of research focusing on women in male-dominated fields, which is so appropriate for today's conversation. She's the author of more than a dozen books. She's a Fulbright Scholar Program Specialist and is currently writing a book on the 6 women who ran for the presidency in 2020. She's a former Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at Penn State's Schreyer Honors College, and she's the incoming president of the Literacy Center. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Gutgold to begin the conversation and introduce our panelists. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Annette, and welcome everyone. You may have heard the axiom that necessity is the mother of invention. In fact, Plato used this phrase in the Republic. He said, the true creator is necessity. It could not be more apropos than here at Launchbox Ladies, where creation and women are key. As a founding member of the Launchbox Ladies Advisory Council, it has been gratifying to see this initiative expand to these webinars. Of course, this was a result of necessity, right? COVID-19, and it will be great to see everyone face to face again. But I'll confess, it has been very relaxing to receive this information from the comfort of our homes or even the beauty of our backyards. Maybe some of you are enjoying nature while you're taking in this information. And I hope that wherever you are, and we have about 100 plus on this call, you are cool and comfortable. So I would like to take a moment now to introduce our esteemed panel. We have 3 fine leaders, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic about the gender balance of higher education leadership in the Lehigh Valley if I tried. We have our Chancellor of Penn State Lehigh Valley, Dr. Tina Q. Richardson. Dr. Richardson has been our Chancellor at Penn State Lehigh Valley since 2015. However, she's been involved in leadership initiatives for women throughout her career, starting at Lehigh University. She has a doctorate in counseling psychology, and she is the recipient of numerous awards for her educational leadership. She serves on several regional boards, and she is the founder of Launchbox Ladies. Welcome, Dr. Richardson, and thank you for your leadership. We also are very honored to have with us Dr. Ann Bieber, who is president of Lehigh Carbon Community College. Dr. Bieber was named the president of Lehigh Carbon Community College in 2014. She began her career at the college in 1981, and she has held numerous positions, including Senior Vice President of Administrative Services and Dean of Continuing Education. Dr. Bieber serves on several community boards and has received numerous awards for her leadership. She holds a bachelor's degree from Cedar Crest College, a master's of public administration from Kutztown University, and a PhD in educational leadership and management from Capella University. Thank you, Dr. Bieber, from the bottom of our hearts for being here today. And Dr. Elizabeth M. Mead, president of our area's only women's college, Cedar Crest College. Dr. Mead became the 14th president of Cedar Crest College on July 1st, 2018. She previously served as the college's provost and has been a member of the faculty since 1993. Dr. Mead earned her master's degree and PhD in philosophy from Boston College and earned a bachelor's degree from Bryn Mawr College. Dr. Mead serves on various community boards. Thank you again so much for giving us your thought leadership today. I want to begin today's program by asking each panelist to provide a brief overview of your institution. So Dr. Richardson, please.
Thank you very much, Nikki, and welcome to my colleagues in leadership at the various institutions. By way of giving a summary of Penn State Lehigh Valley, I will say that we serve the regional community by providing a quality Penn State education. We have approximately 1,000 students that we serve at the Center Valley campus location. But we're a part of a much larger network. Penn State has about 98,000 students. We receive collectively over 100,000 applications each year. And we serve the students by preparing them to be leaders in the community and to have a global perspective. We emphasize across the network of 23 launch boxes, we prioritize and emphasize developing an entrepreneurial mindset. And so I am delighted to have my colleagues with me here today to share what each of the institutions will be doing in order to promote high quality education for all of our students.
Thank you. Dr. Mead?
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you again for the invitation to participate today. Cedar Crest College just graduated its 150th class in May. We are over 150 years old. We began right in downtown Allentown and now sit a little bit more in the west end of Allentown. So as you indicated, we are a women's college, but I think it's important to note that we also educate adult students returning to college, men and women, and we also now have 13 graduate programs, including programs from postmaster certificate through the doctoral level. We are largely a regional institution serving the students of Pennsylvania and this region, and we have a disproportionate number of first-generation students of color. I think I share that with all of my colleagues on this call today. A lot of vulnerable students who I think are relying on us to be able to continue providing them with a quality education that transforms their lives and their families' lives, even as we navigate this pandemic. So I'm really looking forward to talking about how Cedar Crest College is going to go ahead with our mission, even in these circumstances.
Thank you. Dr. Bieber? Dr. Bieber, you are muted. Please unmute.
I am sorry, but thank you, Nikki, for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues and good friends as we serve the educational needs of our community. The community actually formed our community college over 55 years ago, and we are sponsored by our 13 school districts. Each year we serve about 15,000 students, 10,000 in credit and 5,000 in non-credit. We're very proud of the fact that we're a Hispanic serving institution, and our student base comes from Lehigh, Carbon, and Schuylkill County. About 90% of the students we serve are from that area, and they do stay locally upon graduation. And about 65% of our students transfer to the institutions locally. So that's why this partnership of higher education institutions are so important to L-Tri-C.
Great, thank you so much. I want to offer a very brief overview of each of the institution's plans for fall. As you know, many institutions have very various plans. The Cal State system was probably one of the first to come out to say that it would go completely online in fall, but many other institutions have said that it would do in-person and a combination of hybrid. And I wanted to share a brief snippet of what I know from your campuses here in the Lehigh Valley. Penn State Lehigh Valley will be returning to campus on August 24th and then transitioning to remote learning 11/20. Cedar Crest College is opening in fall with face-to-face, online and hybrid, and transitioning to online learning after Thanksgiving. And L-Tri-C is mostly online, except for hands-on classes. So I thought that each of you could perhaps share a little more about what you'll be doing in terms of the fall, presentation of courses for your institution. Perhaps Dr. Richardson, you want to share a little more about Penn State's plans?
Thank you, Nikki. So Penn State intends to provide residential instruction where possible. The combination of guidelines from the state and the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the university has resulted in us having to implement social distancing. And so we are in the process of modifying the number of students that can be physically present at one time in a class. So for those courses that are offered face-to-face, we are creating hybrid opportunities for students to be face-to-face and online. So the remote piece, the online piece is very important because a lecture hall that might be able to accommodate 90 students, we have to reduce the number of individuals in that classroom on any given day. So we will alternate face-to-face with online and do it in a hybrid fashion so we can maximize the number of students who can participate directly with their faculty member and peers as instruction is delivered. In addition to that, we are trying to maintain a robust series of experiences outside of the classroom for students as well. So we have a phenomenal student affairs team, and that team has engaged students in a remote format via Zoom from March on to now, and we will continue to have in-person activities, but also engage those students who, for health reasons and otherwise, choose to enroll, but may not be able to have a face-to-face experience. We're also addressing issues of athletics. And we all know that athletics is an important part of the college experience. So we've been actively engaged through a series of back to work and back to campus committees to plan a series of experiences for students that are curricular and co-curricular so that they have the best possible learning experience in the fall.
Excellent, thank you. Our other panelists.
Sure. We are in a really kind of a fortunate position in that the vast majority of the classes that we offer are under 25 students, but we still have to work with the same classroom capacities that Dr. Richardson was talking about, and I know Dr. Bieber has to deal with as well. So we are opening on August 24th. We will have students living in the residence halls to preserve their safety. They will be cohorted by their patterns of travel so that we're minimizing to some extent the vast numbers of people that students can come into contact with. And we're very proud of that plan that we have in place. I think it will be very effective. Our classes will be a mix of fully in person, most probably hybrid, and then some still fully online. But the thing that we're really working on now is to make sure that every student can access every class online if necessary, so that if a student becomes ill or needs to return home, there won't be any interruption in her learning. She'll be able to continue even if fully face-to-face class online if necessary. We're looking for maximum flexibility to handle every possible circumstance, because we're going to be met with every possible circumstance, aren't we? We are also, I just want to add, we are actively planning for fall athletics with a lot of social distancing requirements, but we are working on a plan that we think will be as safe as possible.
Mhm. Great.
So at LTRI-C, we will be about 20% face-to-face and 80% will be online or remote. And the 20% will mainly be our hands-on technical training, lab courses, but we see increasing that and having the last 7 weeks this semester, we're going to have a short-term 7-week session of various other face-to-face classes starting around October. But again, we're monitoring all the enrollment, and we know we could put together a face-to-face should there be enough students that want that. But the college is open, even though we're more remote, and we have all the services that are available to the students face-to-face, by appointment, and after we turn green, by walk-in.
All right. Well, thank you. You know, some of you have hinted at some of the innovative steps that your institutions will be taking given the changes in the environment, and certainly helping students to adjust is a very big part of that. What are some of the innovative steps that your institution will be taking to help students adjust to this new normal in campus life? And what are some of the features of what that new normal is going to look like on your particular campus? Anyone want to jump in there?
So I will jump in. I mean, I think our primary innovation, which we stole, I'm sure, from other people who have been looking into this, is this grouping of students into pods or cohorts as a way of trying to restrict to some extent the number of people that they come into contact with, and to reduce risk really fundamentally. And I think that is important for students to feel that we're paying attention to the risk of infection. The other innovation that we are looking into, and we haven't made a final decision on it, but is the use of an online screening tool that would indicate early when somebody needs to get tested. There's been a lot of discussion about how to best deploy testing to keep a community safe, and there really hasn't been any consensus. And so our approach is going to be for everybody to use the screening tool every day, and then on the basis of the response, to get tested. The tool that we're looking at will send the results of that response to our pandemic coordinator, so that we get, I think, an early advance warning of, a potential case on campus. That's going to be a big part of our keeping people safe.
Good.
For us, and I'm not sure it's innovative, but what we learned when we moved very quickly to online, as everyone else did, even though we had been 25% of our student body was online, but moving about 1,300 courses online in March, what we realized is even the terminology some of our students weren't aware of. So we established fixed definitions in terminology, and you'll see that everywhere on our website, so that students are well aware of what will take place in that online learning. And certainly some of our more seasoned faculty online are working very closely with our other faculty. All of our distance education department is working very closely with the faculty to make sure that all the avenues they are aware of, whether it in our learning management system or the technologies available to implement into the class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would add to my colleagues' comments by saying that Penn State, as an institution, has maintained a an online and virtual campus. And so as a result, we on an ongoing basis have at least 10,000 students that take advantage of Penn State's World Campus. World Campus provides us then with best practices with regard to teaching online. And so we were able to, in March, the first day after spring break, move 68,000 students to online teaching and instruction. We have mechanisms in place to ensure that faculty have the resources that they need and the professional development that they need in order to be able to deliver courses in ways that are optimal and consistent with face-to-face with the aid of technology. And so our innovation has been that we have used all of our university resources in ways that provide each faculty member as well as student with supports that they need in order to be successful. So our innovation is not only in the classroom, but it also allows us to use technology to enhance student engagement. And so we're able to create a critical balance between curricular and co-curricular. And we're able to ensure that we're providing instruction in the ways that optimize the experience for everyone, but in a way that will allow us to be a leader. As we are learning from other institutions, we are also providing a path forward in what is rapidly becoming a new normal.
So true. Well, thank you very much. Dr. Mead talked a little bit about this. There is so much ongoing discussion around the role of testing, contact tracing, and separation of students in maintaining the health of your campus community. Could you please talk about the measures that your institution will be taking in these areas? And please also address the ongoing privacy concerns that students will have and how your institution will be managing those concerns.
Well, I'll address, I talked a little bit about what we're doing, but let me come back to the privacy because of course that is critically important. In the checklist and the reporting that we are envisioning, the only thing that gets reported is that the student, or actually it's everybody, it's employees, it could well be me, has completed the survey and the completion indicates that this person should not come to campus or should not go to work, or in another case that this person should be tested. It does not report out on any kind of personal information other than that the person should not come to class. And so I think that safeguarding everybody's privacy is of paramount concern. I think one of the challenges that all of us face is how to balance keeping the community informed with keeping personal information private. And so we had a robust discussion in the spring at the early part of this about, how do we communicate with the campus about infections on campus without providing somebody's personal information. And we're small enough that any disclosure can often be personally identified. And so we all have to grapple with privacy versus public health going forward.
And for us, very similar as, although we don't have the testing that Elizabeth referenced, but certainly our human resource department is the point of contact for anyone who has been tested positive. So their first point of contact is our human resource department. They then call the Pennsylvania Department of Health, and then the contact tracing takes place from there under their direction. But privacy is just of the utmost importance, because you want the community, they want to know what's taking place on your campus, and rightfully so, but it's very important. And so we're still struggling with that to determine the right balance.
I think all of the colleges and universities are struggling with the issue of confidentiality. The struggle isn't whether to have it. We will absolutely honor confidentiality, but there's a testing process that is still being defined for Penn State. And because Penn State has 24 locations, we're talking about a university-wide protocol around testing. We know that cases will be reported to the Department of Health. We have a communication strategy in place so that faculty, staff, and students will be informed of the number of cases reported on campus. We, as an institution, have facilities available to quarantine students who test positive. So for example, at University Park and other residential campuses, we've identified facilities for quarantining students. University Park is going to take the Nittany Lion Inn offline as a hotel and quarantine students who have tested positive or students who have been exposed, so they can be quarantined for safety and health purposes. So we have protocols in place that will allow us to address the privacy issues. We're working very closely with HR with regard to faculty and staff, the health department for reporting all cases, a notification system, and then we have the facilities and resources for quarantining for those residential campuses. Penn State Lehigh Valley is not a residential campus, but testing is and community tracking is going to be a part of our protocol.
Thank you. I think one thing we can all agree on is that the coronavirus has certainly made us feel humble and has called upon our humility when it comes to learning about how to manage this virus. And I wondered, what learnings do you take away from this recent experience that you will apply if there is a resurgence of the coronavirus on your campus in the fall? That's a tough one. Dr. Bieber, you look like you're ready to say something.
Well, our executive team just spent that conversation this morning, right before I got on this panel, about, what does it look like for a resurgent plan here? As we all know, we're giving that much thought. What would we do differently than the first time that, and certainly as the direction most of us have been given is, what can you do to operate without closing down, right? Closing down your facility. And so for us, we've taken a lot that we've learned in March. We're using a lot less paper. We're moving a lot less, more of our transactions into electronic. We were really pretty good, we thought, but we still saw the gaps during that time. Certainly we want to have more laptops available to disperse. Our students really needed laptops. We were able to do that. We want to have the stock in stock of laptops so that we don't have to wait for that again. We are in the process of upgrading our wireless to make it even stronger so that students can access it from parking lots should they not have the access again. So, those are just a few of the takeaways from the first time that we were in March began this.
And what I would add, in preparation for the possibility of another resurgence, we have learned a lot about how to use online technology in the best possible way. What we would have this time is preparation. The pivot that we had to do in March really didn't provide us the opportunity for much advanced planning. Now, for any course that we offer face-to-face, there will be an online version of that we've had time to prepare for. And in that preparation, we can pivot, and we can pivot more seamlessly with all the resources in place. We will ensure that students have the devices that they need. We certainly had a loan program through our library for those students who needed devices in March. We have a better communication strategy around resource needs than we had in March. And so we've engaged students and we've engaged faculty and staff in ongoing dialogue so that should a resurgence occur, we are already poised to respond to the needs of individuals. We've also learned how to run some of our university functions that are core in optimal ways using Zoom as a form of technology. And so we will continue to benefit from what we learned as a result of a quick pivot that was required of us before. And we'll continue to benefit from our learning.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I said at the beginning of this to my leadership team, and I had been known for saying it before, that you should never let a good crisis go to waste. And so even as we were going through all of our preparations, we did have moments of feedback and reflection and thought about what are the things that we can do to make sure that the changes that we make to respond to this crisis can make us better as an institution. And Dr. Richardson referred to one of those. So we invested this summer in webcams for all of our classrooms, and we will be recording all lectures. But it's not just going to be for the pandemic. I mean, what a benefit to students who are student athletes who maybe miss a class because they're traveling to a game to now be able to log in and listen to it, or a student who learns better by listening, to be able to listen to the lecture over and over again as a way of enhancing her learning. So I think not just for a resurgence, but also for being a more effective institution going forward, we've taken away a lot of really, really good lessons. And the other thing I would say about a resurgence, and Dr. Richardson alluded to this, is that we had to do everything very quickly in March when the governor closed us down. And I think we did it well. But one of the things that is forming part of our planning coming out of the guidance from PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Education, is that we're not likely to have to just shut down and send people home. So, you know, we have residence halls, and we were told we had to empty them out, and we ended up housing and feeding about 30 students through most of the pandemic. But we were sending people home who didn't really have a good place to go. And maybe it wasn't a safe situation, maybe they had no internet access, and we did our best to fill in those gaps. But I'm gonna really take comfort that even if we have to go to all online instruction, we know we can house and feed our students safely and give them the continuity of education that they are going to need to be successful.
Thank you. The next question has to do with teaching quality. And I wanted to know what have colleges and universities, what can they do to improve the online learning environment for both students and faculty? And you know, some people say maybe a hybrid is the best alternative. What are your thoughts about that, online versus hybrid, and what makes an online course excellent? Anyone?
So I think there are a lot of things that make an online course excellent. There's no substitute for the level of engagement. So just because we're online doesn't mean a student will receive less information and have a reduced opportunity to engage. In fact, it's interesting looking at how and when students choose to turn their video cameras on or off in a course. You know, feedback from faculty to date has suggested that during class, some students have a tendency to have the camera off, but at the end of class they turn the camera on and then engage with their peers in conversation, or the faculty member afterwards. They immediately have follow-up questions and have a level of engagement in the course as a result of technology. They feel more comfortable. We actually had the benefit of getting to know our students a little bit better, to know a little bit more about the students because they were online at home. Faculty got a chance, students had an opportunity to see the faculty in a new light. You know, you see the artwork in the background, you see a kid perhaps walk by. On the one hand, it may be disruptive, but in another way, it's endearing. It's seeing the human side of one another. I think online instruction has provided an opportunity for the recording of lectures, as Dr. Mead has indicated, and the opportunity for students to review as many times as they need. There are certainly educational tools like the Khan Academy, and people use repetition to learn content. Well, we're having that built into courses now. But it's also the case that online instruction, when you take advantage of the vast resources for teaching and learning that are available, and the libraries have known about, you know, the online resources, the open educational resources have been available. We're now using more of the information that can help students do self-directed learning and use that to augment the instructional expertise that faculty are providing. And that combination is transformational for the learning process.
I agree with absolutely with what Dr. Richardson said, but then there are those courses, right, that and programs that just can't be taught online. And they go from, you know, the clinicals that we know for physical therapy or occupational therapy, certainly our aviation program and our truck driving program. And so you have a lot of hands-on courses like that that require face-to-face. And so for some of us, we had to hold either all of them or components of them until we reopened, and are able to offer those as well.
And I just want to speak up in favor of hybrid courses. I was teaching a lot of hybrid courses before I left teaching to go into administration. And it's about creating engagement, as Dr. Richardson had said. And what my own experience of teaching hybrid classes was that there were students who would never speak up in class. It was just their profile. They didn't feel comfortable, but they would be so vocal and so communicative on the various sort of chats and bulletin boards that we had on the weeks when we were not online. So I think hybrid instruction properly done, first of all, does remotely what can best be done remotely. And you know, lectures is a really good case in point. We're always going to need lectures, but think about weather. Do we need 80 people driving in really, really bad weather to come to campus to sit in a lecture hall and look at something that could be delivered on a screen? Mm-hmm. And that's what's behind the flipped classroom as well. Think differently about what has to be done face-to-face. What's best done face-to-face? The hands-on learning that Dr. Bieber has talked about, but also the deep interpersonal engagement. Sitting together and listening to one person speak doesn't have to be done in person.
Mm-hmm. So true. Well, thank you. We are receiving a number of very good questions. And in fact, one of the questions that we received matches one of the questions that I had planned for you. So Christy Widener-Hovey asks us, as a college administrator, what lessons have you personally learned during this pandemic? And what will you carry with you into the future after this unprecedented time as a college leader and mentor? And I had a very similar question about how your leadership style has changed because of this pandemic. So I wonder if any of you could speak to that. Thank you, Christy, for your question.
So I'll start by saying that in ways consistent with the landscape at the time, I've always considered myself to be inclusive in my leadership style. But the pandemic challenged me to redefine what inclusiveness looks like. And so one of the issues is that being on Zoom and having a number of communication sessions. So I have chancellor chats on a regular basis. I was sending a daily message starting from March until when we shut down, a daily message to the campus until the semester ended. And because the communication was ramped up, the level of inclusion and collaboration increased. I was hearing from more faculty and staff around issues. I was also doing messages, sending messages out, communicating to students. And that combination resulted in me having an unplanned lesson on what inclusion actually looks like. We all know that communication is important, but communication ramped up resulted in greater inclusion of ideas, people leaning into leadership in new ways, people making room for more voices at the table around issues that were of importance to everyone. So my leadership changed because the creator of invention, which was crisis, resulted in we had to perform our roles differently. We continue to have a series of committees that are focused on return to work, return to campus. We have new committees that are interdisciplinary and cutting across units around athletics and student engagement. We have robust involvement in retention strategy and how we can convey or market the education that Penn State provides. We have more people involved in that now than ever before. And students are wanting to be involved in each aspect of those leadership areas in ways that I hadn't seen before, but maybe we didn't ask the right questions and we didn't extend the invitations in ways that they're being extended now.
Great, thank you. Dr. Bieber, Dr. Mead, any insights about your own leadership, what you've learned? In 2 seconds, no, I'm just kidding.
No, for me, I was just going to say resiliency. You know, I thought we were a resilient institution over these years and we could always change, accept, handle whatever new adversity might be coming our way. But this certainly took it to a new level.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, my leadership style has been very much about creating a lot of individual relationships because I'm in a small community and I can do that. And so when I'm on campus, spend a great deal of my day out and about and talking to students and dropping in on faculty and being in the dining hall. And I have always been the kind of leader that needs to see somebody face to face. I pick up on a lot about their body language. I'm always sort of taking their temperature about how things are going apart from what they're saying, because they often say what they think they need to say to the president. And I'll be honest, I was bereft without that. That lack of personal contact with anybody during the initial days of the crisis was absolutely the biggest leadership challenge I've ever had to face, because I had to create a new toolbox. And so for me, creating that new toolbox, getting the information I needed about my community and about what my community needed was an incredibly valuable lesson. It was a lesson about communication, as Dr. Richardson says, and it was a lesson about resilience, the resilience of the institution, but my own ability to be resilient and to adapt and to realize that even if you don't have the same method, you still have to get the same information. You still need to know very directly how everybody is doing and how they're feeling and how do we respond to that.
Thank you so much.
So I wanted to just comment on that because one of the things that happened as a result of me not being in my normal routine is that I found more time to engage in activities, be a part of activities that were online. We have a committee on engagement that is led by staff and faculty. And so we do activities through Zoom that I never had the time to do before. Now, that visual interaction was great, but now, you know, we play, we spend some time playing games online and having opportunities to talk and laugh and enjoy stories about one another, because we don't want to lose the connection that we had because we saw each other in the hallways. So we've been very fortunate having a campus climate and culture that allows us to do that. So I just wanted to add that, because there are a lot of people who invest in making sure we stay connected. And we do scavenger hunts and we do all kinds of other activities. And it's a time for us to de-stress and debrief or step away from some of the intense Zoom meetings that we have all day long. So thank you for giving me a minute to say that.
So true. Thank you, Dr. Richardson. Final question is a pretty big one, and then we'll turn to some of our participant questions. What is your institution doing to ensure its long-term financial viability going forward?
I will start with that because we just sort of wrapped up the process last week. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that every institution of higher education has lost significant revenue through this crisis, even while serving all of our students at a very, very high level. We refunded room and board to students, even though we didn't actually save any money by their not being here. We felt it was an important thing to do. And so we have gone through a very intensive month-long planning process with a task force led by the board to identify areas where we can become more efficient, to trim expenses, and so that the charge from the board was to see places where we could reduce expenses, increase revenue, or find a way to do what we do better. And so 144 ideas were generated. Sometimes it's the investment of software to free up people's time, right? Because that's an important way to ensure long-term financial viability. We've done long-term planning about what we need to be doing and looking like 2, 3, 4 years out, because to be honest, again, with everybody, we're going to be feeling the financial effects of this crisis long after a vaccine has been developed.
Thank you.
Yeah, at LTRC, we're doing all as well that Dr. Mead mentioned, and we've been very fortunate. We're in a training center for Amazon, and we began that during this shutdown. They began several weeks ago, and so we're one of 3 training centers in the United States. For us to do as much industry training to bring industry here to our valley, number one, for economic development, because we know it's the far-reaching economics impact is far greater than higher education. It's impacting our entire community in all areas. So that is certainly an area that we're trying to expand as we continue to go on. But you know, unfortunately, we've had to look at positions and as well, how can we better serve the community and reduce costs at the same time?
We have about 2 minutes left. Dr. Richardson.
Okay, so within 2 minutes, I will say that the university is looking at all cost-cutting measures, just as my colleagues have indicated. We put hiring on pause. We don't have a hiring freeze. We have a hiring pause. We are tuition-driven, like my colleagues, and as such, we need to understand the realities of the budget as it relates to enrollment in the fall, because that's going to ultimately determine what resources are available to us. We have used reserves where possible, but the cost, the impact of the pandemic is greater than the reserves that we would have available. And so as a result, We are creating various scenarios that will help us get through the immediate future and then longer term challenges. And so that is an ongoing process, not a short-term fix to what is ultimately a financially long-standing challenge that we're confronting.
Thank you very much. We have time for just one more audience question. And one of the questions is, how did you gather input from students, faculty, and staff to help shape your institution's plans? And then we'll turn it over to Annette to conclude. So anyone want to jump in with some ways that you've gathered the information?
So I will say, first and foremost, like all colleges and universities, we have utilized a survey data collection process. We have created committees that include faculty and staff. We've engaged our SGA to be involved in informing processes and providing us with information. And then we've taken the time to analyze the data that are coming in, so that we have the best understanding of what the broad range of issues are that are being confronted by individuals within our communities. That said, we have hosted town hall meetings and opportunities for individuals to submit questions, much like we're doing today, so that we would have an opportunity to hear those voices that need to be expressed through multiple delivery perspectives. So,
thank you. Any other comments from our panelists?
I would say the same: surveys, town halls. I've met with every possible constituency throughout this.
Great.
and the faculty senates at each of our institutions, it's been a valuable resource because that is a critical voice that has to be heard in this process. So we tried to use every mechanism that was already in place above and beyond creating additional committees to do this work.
Well, thank you so much. We are now out of time, and I want to just thank you enormously for your thought leadership and also your leadership. You're three inspirational women leaders right here in the Lehigh Valley. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to Annette to conclude today's program.
So thank you, Dr. Gutgold, for leading the discussion today. It was really just insightful for everyone, I hope. And to our panel of female leaders in the higher education institutions in the Lehigh Valley, thank you so much, Dr. Richardson, Dr. Mead, Dr. Bieber. Thank you for sharing your stories with us today, the challenges you're facing, you know, some of your own personal challenges and how you're managing through those. We appreciate your time in the discussion. I also want to give a shout out to the Launchbox Ladies Council, because programs like this don't get off the ground without a team of people working together and supporting the mission. And so I want to thank our volunteers, Catherine Bailey, Rita Guthrie, Nicola Gutgold, Dakota Reinecke, Tracy Damiani, Leanne George, and Marilyn Reyes for their contribution to helping us put together these programs. I also want to just briefly mention a couple of other upcoming programs that we have at Penn State Lehigh Valley. One, tomorrow at 12:30, the Arts Project Online program, moderated by Ann Lalick from our campus. And it's focused on the spotted lanternfly, zones of syncopation. That's going to be really interesting. And on July 29th, we have another Launchbox Ladies program entitled Bridging the Social Distance Gap in Close Contact Businesses. And we're going to bring together some female entrepreneurs from our community who are managing the challenges of opening their businesses. One last thank you to ASR Media Productions for their sponsorship. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And for those of you that would like to stay on and do some networking with your Launchbox Ladies colleagues, feel free to do so. And I'm going to switch over to begin to enable the mics and videos of everyone that has remained with us. So thank you again for joining us today.